Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 323 of a year of change. We are getting, actually in the beginning of week 47 as well. I should say that. We are getting dangerously close to the end. And I wanted to sort of take a bit of a step back this week because over the past few weeks I've been trying to think, we're focusing on exercise and we've sort of gotten away from the food part of it. And I want to do this and this and this and this. And I've sort of lost... I know that during this week I've said a lot of, we need to keep things in perspective. But I've sort of lost a little bit of that while I was doing this. Because when we first started this out, this was never... the intention of this was never to say, at the end of a year, you're going to be eating health foods and you're going to be exercising 5 times a week. It's not what the goal was. The goal for this year was to get to a point where we aren't eating the way that we used to eat. Take that however you want, whether it's overeating or eating too much junk food or too much salt and sugar and everything else, so that we're eating healthier, not necessarily, health food, but eating healthier, and that we've introduced some activity so that we're moving more. Eating less and doing more, basically, is what it was. And I feel like I've sort of lost that focus a little bit because when we finished everything off on the food, then we started focusing on the exercise, and it's kind of gone every which way. We lost our schedule. I'm blaming you. I lost my schedule so that there wasn't the same sort of, I know what Tuesday holds, I know what Friday holds, stuff like that. And it is a little difficult to try to keep up with, keeping a daily thing that way because with food, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of topics. And so it was fairly easy to cover that way because it would bring something up and which would remind me of some story or something, which I never really got telling many of those. But overall, with the exercise, it's a little difficult because anytime that you try to find something, it's always sort of the aftermath. Like people that have already lost weight, so now they're doing exercise. There are people that, start up an exercise program, so that's what they've got going. So there's no real, and even the beginning ones, like if they say, exercise for beginners, it's, again, start out with a 5K. It's very advanced stuff even for the beginning. So it's really tough to try to find that stuff. And I think that during the past few weeks when I've been going, we need to eventually get to vigorous exercise, and we want to do this and up this to 3 days a week, and then do this over there and this over there. This started... at the very beginning for me, that's when I started focusing on the exercise stuff. So it's just sort of been a part of everything. And I don't want to get to a point where it's, the series has changed. Where we're saying, now we have to focus on this because we have to hit this goal by the next 40 days at this point. 41, 2, I can count. So this week, I just want to take a little bit of a step back. Not too far back. I'm not going to get to a point where we're going, all right, eat whatever you want and no exercise all week. We're going to keep things going the way that they're going. But the point of this isn't so that at the end of this series, then you're exercising every day, for an hour a day, you're huffing and puffing and you're, sore every day. That's not the point. And I know that we sort of hear that a lot saying, if you're sore, that means you're doing it right. And I've heard other people say, just with myself that, I don't want to get to a point where I'm injured. But I'm not sore after I exercise. When I first make a quick change, that first day, I'm a little achy afterwards, but it doesn't last into the next day. And that's not the point of doing this. The point of this is not so that we're working out every day. It never should have been. That was never the intention of it. It's not so that you do your exercise on Monday and you need Tuesday because you're still achy. If you're to that point now, we're doing too much. Because the intent of this series was so that at the end of the year, we were eating healthier than we were before, and we've introduced some activity, not a workout. This isn't what this is supposed to be. We aren't supposed to be forming a workout regimen for ourselves. And I've lost sight of that because this was, exercise is just the easiest way to introduce that activity. Because whether you go for walks with friends or shoveling snow, or, whatever it is that you decide to do, exercise is just sort of the easiest way because you can set out a block of time and say, all right, I'm going to do something more than I'm doing now. That was the intent of this. And it sort of turned into, I feel on my part anyway, that I'm like, okay, well, we need to have it so that, by the end of this, then we have a workout scheduled every 3 day or every other day, 3 times a week, whatever you want to say. And it really shouldn't be. You should not be sore after doing exercise at this point. None of us are at that stage yet. When eventually at some point in the future, then yes, you're going to be doing exercise that if you really want it to make a big difference, say, okay, now I'm going to start getting into shape, I want to start working out and doing all this other stuff, then yes, you need to be doing exercise that, you're going to be able to feel so that you're tired at the end of it, and the next day, you just, not that you're injured again, but that you can still feel it the next day. It's probably the best way to put it. Not necessarily sore, but, just enough that you can feel it and go, yeah, I still know that I did something yesterday. For a lot of us, that might be going for a 10-minute walk. And that's what I've sort of lost sight of. And I think that, we've been doing this for so long, focusing on this for so long, for so many weeks, that, it may get to a point where people think this is turning into an exercise thing, and I'm not ready for this. And they tune out. And I don't want that to happen. The goal of this is to introduce activity, whatever it is. It's just, for me, the easiest thing was walking. For you, it might be something else. And for some people, like, this is so far behind where they are now, that, they've tuned out. They've gone on, they've got their own workout going, they have a regular schedule, they do it every single day, they can go for an hour or two every single day. That's fine. That's not what this was for. This year was designed to get me so that I'm out of the 325-pound range, and that I'm set on a path that I can continue on afterwards and get down to the weight that I want. And I think part of it is because we've had a few days where, well, not a few days, but we're getting to a point, I should say, made no sense, where it's like a bit of a countdown. And so I'm feeling rushed going, I need to do this and this and this. The same sort of thing as trying to hit that 100-pound mark by the end of it. I may not hit that. I probably won't. I actually did my weigh-in today, which I didn't tell everyone to do. Do your weigh-in. You know how to do it now. But I did my weigh-in, and I lost less than half a pound, which is actually more than I thought I was going to do, because Thursday and Friday I didn't really do much on the treadmill. So at least it's still progress, so I'm okay there. But in my head, I'm still thinking, I really want to hit that, and I do. I want to hit that 100-pound mark by the end of the year, but I feel like I'm pushing it to a point where it's influencing the other stuff that we should be doing. And the stuff for the exercise, we're going to keep going the way that we're going. Well, not at the same progress. Not at the same increase, I should say. I'm not going to have any changes this week because I really want everyone just to sort of sit back and go, okay, this has been going very quickly. And it has been going quickly because we're trying to accelerate to the point where, we're assuming that people have been doing this from day one. But with this, I think it's something that as long as we can end the year by someone saying, okay, I have a good idea where to start. If the end of the year is you saying, all right, I've got my half hour a day. Starting every Wednesday, I have half an hour where I do a leisurely walk. But you have a plan ahead of you, knowing what you need to do to gradually build up to get into shape or even get into better shape. That's the main goal. That's what this should have been. And I feel like I've sort of pushed and gone through a little too quick. I know that we haven't done many changes in the past few weeks. But I'm trying to think back to when I was, it sounds like I'm going way back when I was a child. A few months ago, if I had to start in on this, and I wouldn't be able to do it. And that, again, it wasn't the point of this. The point of this year was to change the way that we look at food, change the way that we react to it, and have a better idea and a better attitude and a better approach towards healthier eating and exercise, or activity. Prefer that term. I know it's the exact same thing, so I'm not one for euphemisms, but activity doesn't actually have to be going to a machine and working out, going to a gym, or doing something going, well, this is now exercise. It's not the same thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Take your dog for a walk, or, go for a swim, or do something. I don't care what it is. The main goal was to get so that we have activity on a regular basis throughout our lives, because we have none right now. Well, right now we have a little bit. We're doing okay right now. So we're staying with the moderate exercise for the time being. And we sort of went through that. We've gone through that a couple of times, so I won't rehash the whole thing again. But we want to stay at this activity level for at least a little while. We will be touching on the vigorous exercise later on. But if you felt that this has been going, okay, well, I have to increase again and increase again and increase again, and it's going too fast, step back, readjust. I've done this a number of times when I was on my treadmill. When I started out, it was just a simple 5 kilometers per hour and then gradually increase the incline. Well, I started at 4, and then gradually increase the incline that way. Then gradually increase the speed and everything else, and I've done this over the course of a year. So trying to cram that into a few weeks is kind of stupid. But whatever you have for your, I guess, little time blocked off for exercise or activity or whatever you want, make those changes slowly, because you'll get to a point where, prime example is when I started actually thinking, okay, I want to start the actual jogging portion of it. I didn't stay at that 5% incline at 5 kilometers and start jogging from there. I reset, I readjusted everything, went down to a flat plane, and started going 1 minute at a time and doing it in, I think, 20-minute intervals. So 19 minutes of walking, 1 minute of jogging. And then I gradually moved up to 5 minutes. And then I readjusted again and said, okay, I'm going to have something where, out of every 10 minutes, then I jog for 1, and then walk for 10 and jog for 1. And then I readjusted again because the math was driving me crazy. I've readjusted 3 or 4 times to a point now where I do 10 minutes of walking and then I jog for as long as I can. Though Thursday and Friday didn't work out that well. But there was a point there last week when I was walking for 10, jogging for 10, walking for 10, jogging for 10. So although the rest periods are in there, they're a little bit longer, and I'm not jogging as often as I was doing the 3 minutes and then 2 minutes of rest and 3 minutes and 2 minutes of rest, I can jog longer than I could before. So there's still an improvement. So as long as you're adjusting something that way, that there's an improvement, then it doesn't matter if you say, okay, well, I've been doing 5 sets of 20 pounds. I don't know what that means, but it sounds interesting. So you're doing 20 pounds and you're lifting it 5 times. There we go. You can either adjust it so that you're lifting 21 pounds 5 times, or you're lifting 20 pounds 6 times. Or you can say, you know what, I'm going to cut the weight in half, and I'm only doing 10 pounds, but I'm going to be lifting it 10 times, and then readjust that way. Whatever it is that you decide to do to readjust it's not just a matter of constant improvement nonstop. There are going to be moments when it's going to feel like you're going, I sound like I had a weird accent there for a second, didn't I? There are going to be moments when you think that because of this adjustment, you're doing less, but we're still going to be building up towards something. So at this point, and this is really what we should have been doing right from day one, and what this focus should have been the past few weeks. And we haven't really touched on a lot of food subjects as of late. I can't talk subjects. We haven't talked on a lot of food topics, there we go, in a very long time. But I think there's not a lot more that we can do for that. We have the information that we need. We've been following it for months and months and months and months. But I don't want this to turn into, okay, well, here's how we're building an exercise video. I just don't want it to turn into that, because I still want it to be that, at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, the very last video, that it's going to be something that people could still do. And that's been the main goal of this was designed to be, sort of a lifestyle change or an attitude shift. Shift. There you go. More vocabulary. And I don't want it to turn into something that, well, from day one, we started doing nothing, and by day 365, we're eating organic hummus, and we're doing, 2-3 hours of workouts every day. And I feel like that's where it's going. I may be wrong, but that's where it felt like it's sort of been going for the past couple of days. And especially where, throughout the past week, there's been that sort of underlying, all right, well, I don't want to hurt myself, but we should be sore. And then I thought, that's really, really stupid. We shouldn't be sore when we're doing this stuff. Once we start really working out in earnest and actually doing a workout, then fine, yes, we can be sore and it'll be okay. We'll be used to it by then. For right now, this isn't a workout. This isn't the goal of this. This is to introduce some activity into our lives. And for me, anyway, it just seems that, the exercise itself is the best way to do that. If you have a job where you do physical activity, then you're probably okay at this point. I mean, it's going to be different for everybody. But I wanted to sort of touch on that because I feel like this has gotten away from me a little bit. And I wanted to just sort of bring everything back. So, for this week, as I say, no changes this week. Take a look at what you're doing though, readjust it so that it's something that's comfortable. Something that, again, you're going to want to continue to do. If you're tired every single time when you're done your exercise, eventually you're going to want to stop doing it. It should be enough that we're feeling it. We have that, the guideline saying after 10 or 15 minutes, then you should be starting to sweat a little bit. You should be able to still speak and carry on a conversation. You shouldn't be able to sing. That's really, use that as a guideline, because that way it's going to be different for everybody, but everyone's going to be working pretty much at the same activity level. There was another thing, I can't remember what it was. Yes. Being sore afterwards. For the first little bit, we probably will be sore. When we first started out, we were. I was when I started doing my treadmill. But usually, like after 5 or 10 minutes, that should be gone. After you're done your exercise, you shouldn't spend the rest of the day going, I still ache from everything. We're doing too much at that point. And we will not stick with it if we stay that way. So we need to back things up a bit, take a really good, long, hard look at it, and say, okay, how can I adjust this so that it's still going to be beneficial to me? Which, quite frankly, anything that we're doing, if it's more than we were doing before, is still going to be beneficial. So take a look at it that way. Having a hard time. Take a look at it that way and say, all right, if I adjust this, am I just basically saying, all right, well, I'm cutting my work in half and not really doing anything, or is this something I'm going to be able to build on and then readjust again and then build a bit more, so that we're sort of setting the groundwork for having regular activity. Eventually, I would like to get to a point where, not necessarily every day. If you really enjoy what you're doing, then certainly go do it every day, absolutely. But we're trying to still follow healthy guidelines, which is around 150 minutes of moderate activity per week, is really what sort of the American Heart Association says that's going to be best for you. So when you look at it that way, 75, that was a little over, yeah. So it's 2.5 hours. So there we go. So 2.5 hours a week. So roughly half hour, 45 minutes a day, where you're actually doing some sort of moderate activity, or 75 minutes per week of vigorous activity, which is going to cut things down even more. So however you decide to divvy those up, that's really what our end goal should be, is getting to a point where we're doing enough that it's beneficial to us, not something that is going to knock us out and make us sore, and worse yet, get us injured. That's really sort of what I wanted to talk about originally, was we shouldn't be doing exercise that gets us injured. And then that sort of led into, well, we shouldn't really be doing any exercise that makes us sore. That's not what this is about yet, if ever. But it will get to a point where it might be 6 months down the road, it might be a year down the road, where you will be able to do those exercises, and it'll just sort of become part of what you're doing. And you can say, I've worked out for 45 minutes, I'm really sore. The next day, you still feel it. We are nowhere near that yet. And it may be a very long time before we are. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, because that's what it felt like it's been sort of heading towards, is that, all right, well, now we're doing vigorous, so now you have to be in pain. It's ridiculous. It's for people that are actually doing a workout, yes. By all means, then do it. And yes, if you're sore the next day, you've done something. For us, for what our goal is for this series, that's not what we're trying to accomplish. We are trying to get to a better spot than we were a year ago. And I think we've done that so far, but I want to sort of bring everything back and get back to a more reasonable approach to this. So for this week, no changes. Just take a look and see what you can adjust. And we'll just sort of go from there. We will eventually be touching on the vigorous exercise, because the vigorous it's not something that's going to make you sore. That's what I do when I'm on my treadmill. And again, the activity level is going to be different for everybody. But usually after about 15 minutes, after I'm done everything, then I'm back to normal. It's tough while I'm doing it, but any exercise is going to be tough for us, because it's been, decades for some of us since we've actually done any real exercise. But we will get there in time. It's not important, how fast you get there. This is to set the stage. This is to get us to a point where we're going to be able to continue on from here and keep building and keep improving and keep adjusting. We don't need to work out just yet. We leave that for the healthy people. We're sticking with our own at this point. But for right now, I'm going to leave this video here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video.